this last session of the day, we're going to focus on resilience and adaptability during changing times. We were made for these times, staying grounded while everything is shifting. So, ask your questions, but we do have wireless mics as well. We've used Slido so far today because people are mad for the Slido, people are flat out on it. But if you have any questions, you want a wee bit of attention, just put your hand. Is that nice? Look at that. There's a woman. Is that good? Have you only just got your dessert? Or is that your second dessert? Look, she is mortified. Look at her. She's like, I can't believe this happened to me, Maria. That's so embarrassing. So please do ask your questions. So we're going to kick off with each panellist introducing themselves, who they are, what they do. Louise, do you want to kick off?
Sure, thank you very much, Emer. And I'm only joking, I'm not really middle class because only a working class person would have spotted 20p on the way up and lifted it up. I have the proof. So my name is Louise Wardle-Hunter. I am Principal and CEO of Belfast Met, and I was smiling at a colleague there because I used to be a civil servant, so I'm a recovering civil servant, now in education.
Hi, I'm Carolyn Pereira-Lynch. I'm originally from Canada, and I came over to Northern Ireland in 2005 to do a PhD in astrophysics. After that, I decided to go into teaching, so I was a teacher for 12 years. And then after COVID, I decided to try a new adventure and start in the world of tech. So Kainos hired me as a data engineer, so I'm just learning this whole world of tech.
Thank you. And Anna, what about yourself?
Hi, my name is Anna McSorley. I'm head of people for EOS IT Solutions, and I am South Armagh middle class, so, which is a completely different middle class. Thank you.
And what about yourself?
Hi, I am Erin McFeely. I work for Alchemy Technology Services as Alliances and Engagement Manager. So I do kind of a range of external partnerships and also get to work on some of our employee engagement activities. Been with the company about a year and a half, also very new to the tech sector. Came from a very different background in the world of community sector, charity work and health and wellbeing. So it's good to be here.
Thank you so much. So, if we just kick off talking about adapting to technological change, how can individuals and organisations best adapt to that rapid pace of technological change without losing sight of their core values and their objectives? Louise, do you want to kick? Obviously, Belfast Met, COVID, all those things.
Sure. So a very quick story. I started at Belfast Met on the 20th of April 2020. We all remembered what that was. We were 3 weeks into lockdown, roughly, at that time. So I made the long journey from my bedroom upstairs to our music room, as we call it, in our music room.
Not middle class.
8 guitars. What family needs 8 guitars? Ours does. But to start running an organisation. But in terms of adaptability, first of all, I ran the college from my laptop. I had to do that, get to know everybody, all the senior managers, all the people. The laptop died, tech, failed. Within half an hour, I was running a 70 million organisation from a phone. Thank you. That was a little bit nerve-wracking. But the most important thing was what was happening to our learners, what was happening to our students. Our lecturers had pivoted into online learning for the majority of our students and learners. And I think in common with many other organisations across this room and many public sector organisations specifically, it wasn't a question of can you adapt, it was you blinking well had to, and we were fast forwarding into that. So happy to tell a bit more about how I got to understand and see an organisation. But if we had not had the digital capacity that we had, we would have been on our uppers. It was absolutely central to being able to continue to deliver.
During COVID, everybody just had to adapt. Like I remember the first year we did Women in Tech in here with no audience, and it was just me, and it was so weird, and it was just me, and I was just like making jokes, and no one was laughing. I mean, it was like being home for Christmas, and it was so weird. But we had to adapt so quickly, and even online meetings, online events. For me in the event world, everything changed, so I couldn't imagine in education. Carolyn, what about from your point of view?
Yeah, I think I have similar experience as Louise here. I think the importance in terms of all the changes in technology is embracing them and being curious about them. So when I was a teacher, I was part of a working group that was exploring technologies and how they could be used in teaching and learning. And it was about that knowledge sharing and that upskilling of colleagues and having that support and that culture within the school of wanting to explore those technologies so that when COVID did hit, the students were already used to using the online platforms, and we were already well aware of the positive impact that it can have, and that made things a lot easier for a lot of people. But from a different perspective as well, adapting to technologies because of COVID, I'm here today in the world of tech. I live in Armagh, so I wasn't prepared to be commuting 3 hours a day. I have a young family. And when remote and hybrid flexible working became a thing in the world of tech, it opened up opportunities for me that weren't there before, and I decided to take the plunge. I didn't want to have any regrets in my career. I think I had felt like I had reached sort of my full potential as a teacher, and I had more to give, and I just said I took the plunge and ended up here.
And I think, because we started off, obviously, with the mention of COVID about how you started, basically, a few weeks into that, one of the things that was massively impacted for a lot of people during COVID was mental health. And we're talking about staying grounded while everything is shifting. Like, that was a really difficult challenge. But in this era of kind of constant connectivity and information overload, what strategies do you all feel can be implemented? We'll maybe go to Erin for this, because you have a background in mental health. So what strategies can be implemented to promote work-life balance and protect our mental health?
Yeah, I think it's just still time for us to reflect really on what happened during COVID and all those really strange times that we went through, and how we're now actually coming out of the back of that, and finding new ways to connect again. And while the technology, it was great that it was there and we all adapted really quickly, and it showed our ability to adapt. I think that what we also found is that people quite quickly wanted to get back together again. It was never here to stay, and I think that finding that balance where, yes, we're online, and yes, we can embrace the positives that have come out of that in terms of more flexible working practices and so on. I think it's still really important that we find the balance there, and we find time for human connection, which we wouldn't want to lose, and which was potentially at the detriment of people's mental health and well-being during the pandemic. So I think that connection is one thing that's really important. And then there's the whole range of strategies that people are now putting into practice within their own workplace as well to help people with their mental health. And a lot of the time, the mental and the physical is completely connected. So we know that doing all the right things that are good for us, like our exercise and our sleep and our eating patterns and all that, don't always get them right. But trying to support our employees in whatever way we can to implement those into their lives, I think, is really important as well as employers.
Thank you. A question for Ala here. Someone has asked, how do you support and bring your people along with you when the organisation is growing at an extremely fast pace?
Someone from one of our tables, but so yeah, maybe at the beginning. So EOS IT Solutions is a family-run business. Just to give a bit of context to answer that question, from just outside Banbridge, and we are anchored and have our state-of-the-art headquarters in Banbridge. So I joined in the 1st of August 22. From I joined, our headcount has almost doubled in that period of time. We now have 2,000 employees globally, and we operate in 195 countries. But I think to answer that question, the owners of the business and the leadership team are just really themselves. And it's a bit like, what is it, the saying of Oscar Wilde is, try not to be anyone else, or just be yourself, everyone else is taken. And for me, they're the kind of values, and I think the family who own the company are the same. It's just being true to yourself, not pretending to be something else, and staying really focused. And we talk about the North Star and lots of language around that. I think if you really got that clear purpose of what you want to do, if you know it in here, if you have that connection in here and you trust what you're doing with your people, you will get there. I mean, some of the analogies of where we are, the plane's taking off and we're still putting the luggage in the back because we're moving so fast that we're still putting a lot of our processes in place. But even in the time I've been with the company, the changes for the good have been phenomenal. And I think it's about self-awareness. We know where we are. We know we're not perfect in where we are yet. But and I think the wonderful ladies at table 15, 16 are testament to that, of the hard work that we do every single day to get it right.
Yeah.
Thank you. And with loads of great questions, keep them coming. We have got a question, Carolyn, for you specifically. What was it like moving from a PhD in astrology, or was it astrophysics?
Astrophysics.
Astrophysics, someone's not listening. Is astrology like, is that
I
star
discovered
signs?
a new type of stars.
Yeah.
That was my claim to fame.
In astrophysics to teaching and then to tech, what were the challenges and how did you overcome them? It's a great question.
Yeah, I think I've always just liked challenging myself. Like from a very, very young age, maybe 7 or 8, like I was fascinated with the stars and space, and that was just my passion. It still is my passion today. I don't think anything will overshadow that. And I think when I finished my PhD, I realized that academia wasn't really what I wanted to pursue at that stage in my life. I was 30 by then and wanted to start a family. And I knew that doing postgraduate studies required moving a lot, and I was tired of living out of 2 suitcases. So I wanted something that I could put roots with, and teaching seemed like a really good step in the right direction for that. And I always loved talking to young girls and inspiring women in STEM because, like many women here, when I was doing my PhD or my physics degree, undergraduate degree in Canada, there was 3 of us in the physics department, and by the end of it, I was the only female left standing who graduated. So, inspiring young women into tech, into STEM subjects was something that I was very passionate about, and I feel that I did that for 12 years in the school that I was teaching. I got them all involved in all sorts of competitions and things like that. And then I think a lot of students gave me confidence, and they kept on telling me, "Miss, you're too good for this. Your talent is wasted here." And it took them to giving me that self-belief. So as much as I was trying to help them fulfill their potentials, they were kind of helping me realize that I had more to give. And when COVID happened and I started talking to people about working from home, I was like, you know what, maybe I could do something like that. Maybe I kind of want to go back to learning. I kind of want to go back to exploring and pushing and challenging myself. So those skills and that curiosity that's in me, I knew I had the skills to learn, because I had taught myself so much in my life so far. I had that, got that self-belief from others, and was able to then take the plunge.
Thank you so much. That's so lovely that the kids were saying that to you.
Yeah, I think I was a good, nice teacher. I'm
You
a
must
loss.
have been a nice teacher. Nobody said that to me today yet. You're too good for this. You're just amazing. Those are great questions here. So, you mentioned obviously kids you were teaching and stuff. Had a good question. Given the rate of change, what are the skills we need in our school children to build in order to be grounded when they start their careers? That's a great question. It's so different these days with social media and stuff. So, Louise, do you want to?
Sure. They like to call these the transversal skills. So there are issues that and certainly it's what we do, is people might know in the room, at Belfast Met and other FE colleges, we're taking young people in from the age of 16 and up. But if you're looking even further upstream in the schools, the whole issue of being able to equip young people to be able to develop their communication skills, to be able to develop their team building skills, to be able to understand a plan, be part of planning, understanding the importance of deadlines, understanding the importance of being able to deliver the deadlines. That some of this, probably to everyone in this room, these are now innate skills to, I would argue, maybe all of us or in the room, but they aren't to everyone. And as the mum of, I've 3 grown-up children of my own, but as the mum of an autistic young person, issues around, and if you are neurodiverse, issues around it become even more complex when it can come to issues around executive skills and so forth. So there is an issue about equipping everyone in terms of the skills which are going to be essential to help them succeed. And I think that's why if you were to come to, say, Belfast Met and to do a level 2 traineeship there, part of what we do is we try and give you those important transversal skills which are enable young people and people indeed of all ages to be able to not just survive in the workplace but to flourish. And going back to the point that you made earlier on about also to be themselves in the workplace and to find, and I know authenticity is often talked about and hard to deliver in practice, but actually so much of that is about being able to be confident in what you do, and confidence goes alongside competence for me.
Thanks so much. That was a great answer. That was really, really interesting. And I think it's interesting to talk about those transversal skills. You know, it's kids now are having to learn different skills to when we were at school, and when some of the panel were at school. 'Cause we're at school at the same time.
All right.
But I think when you're saying there about the innate skills, like, I think that's interesting because the younger generation don't have the same innate skills. I don't have the innate skills you were talking about there, and I was thinking I don't have these. But then you said you're an autistic kid. I have a diagnosis of autism as well, and I thought that's why. But I'm glad somebody's finally talked about that today, because we're in a room full of tech people. I'm sure we've got quite a few autistics in the day. But it is interesting thinking how are we going to ground these kids right from even younger than 16, which is where they're starting with you. We've got loads of questions. In a word, Erin, this might be for you again. In a word where life is so turbulent, how do you best support your employees' mental well-being?
Yeah, I probably not one answer to that. There's, lots of different ways, and depends, I guess, what way you cut it. But I think developing a culture that is all around supportive, not just of people's professional development, but also of their personal development, is really important. And talked a little bit before about some of the ways that we all know that are good for us to keep our mental and physical well-being in the right place. But I guess another thing that we talk about a lot in Alchemy is about our mindset. And about how we develop a kind of growth mindset as opposed to a fixed mindset. And I think that all really helps with resilience. And when you can develop resilience, then, with all these different challenges that we're facing in the world now, whether it's in the workplace or at home or in wider society, I think it's really important that, we're helping our employees to develop that awareness of themselves. And for them to be developing their own ways to grow resilience and to face challenges. So, for example, we did a workshop just as one example on stress and stress awareness there not so long ago, and I think that in itself is really useful, just to equip people with the language and the knowledge that they need to acknowledge what's going on for them and to understand what's going on with their emotions, and hopefully then to develop some healthy strategies of dealing with that, because whether it's in the workplace or at home or on the news, there's kind of no getting away from things that could challenge your mental health out there at the minute. So yeah, I think alongside those kind of practical things that you can do, people really kind of developing an awareness and an understanding of their own emotions and ability to cope is really important. Getting to know themselves and what works for them individually.
Thank you, Erin. Thank you. Mary, I have a question, Anna, I have a question for you here. I was distracted there because I was laughing because someone said, Emer, you're doing a smashing job. Hope you appreciate my middle class adjective, which is very good. Hello, fellow middle classer, wherever you are. So yes, Anna, we have got a few questions on the working from home model and the hybrid and things like that, which I think would be perfect for you. So someone says, how do we foster a culture of employee engagement within a global and hybrid workplace? And someone has also said, and how do we encourage staff who prefer to work from home and don't want to be in the office because we still seem disconnected with hybrid? So do you obviously you're a global company, you must have staff working from home.
So it's a bit of an anomaly. So as a company, we are an AV company. Now, just to say, when I joined AOS, I wasn't in tech and I didn't even know what AV meant, which is audiovisual. So it was one of the first questions I said to Barry when he was talking to me. I said, sorry, what does AV mean? And just, I'll not tell you what he said, but the point being, so what we do, we install audio-visual equipment as one of our pillars and around to support hybrid working and, or not hybrid work, to support remote working and so forth. But I think one thing that's led to our success is in our anchor in our headquarter office in Banbridge, we have about 90% in office 5 days a week. And the reason why we don't want to let go of that, because that's a bit what we're talking about connecting with people, talking to people. And I even watched the 2 tables of the girls who are here today and the friendships that they have from, you know, in the kitchen or around the office. But it also supports with collaborating and, you know, if you have an idea about something, I'm very much just get out of my seat and go and talk to someone. Whereas if they're remote working, it's maybe sometimes harder to get them or they're doing with that. So there is a balance, of course, and because we're across North America, there's a lot of home working. We've anchor offices in outside Austin, we have them in California and Seattle, but around from that we've lots of remote workers as well. So it really is a blend, but we work a lot through Cisco WebEx as well, so it's very instant messaging and phoning and online as well. But I do think not to lose that presence in the office is really, really important for us when we're doing our business.
And what about in the room? How do people feel about it? We'll do just a show of hands. Who prefers to be in the office? Oh, who prefers to work remotely? Oh, that's quite split. So right down the middle, there's the introverts and the extroverts. Brilliant.
Yeah, sorry, just to close out on that. So we work very closely with the likes of Meta and Google and Amazon and so forth, and we have workers in their buildings, and they're doing that switch back to the office, and we're kind of a bit ahead of the curve in that because we never really lost that. So yeah, I think it's interesting.
It is interesting, it's fascinating, and it's interesting that we were kind of forced into that with COVID. But someone has said here, we started the day with reference to continuing and growing your career after having kids. What do you think we need to do to help parents grow and evolve? And I should say, Sarah from MCS, who spoke at the start there were quite a few comments for people who were saying that they appreciate someone was mentioning about childcare and things like that, and the importance of that. So anyone here have comments on how do we help parents grow and evolve in their roles? Yep.
I as a parent, and I've always been a full-time worker. So 3 kids, always went back to work full-time afterwards in an era where it took 2 salaries to pay the mortgage, and the reality is that's the same for an awful lot of working parents, and God knows how parents who are single parents actually manage. I think the critical bit for me is it's about how do you there's one thing about how do we make life easier for parents or others with caring responsibilities. There's a whole sandwich generation that emerges as well, not just parents, but parents of children, but also they're looking to the elder care as well. So there is a piece there, you know, you live long enough, it'll come to everybody in the room at some point. You may be, if you're a parent, but you're looking upwards to care for the parents or your in-laws or whatever other family members above you, and that puts other types of pressures. So in short, I would say the part of the issue is beyond government policies around childcare and taking childcare seriously and not penalising parents who want to work. There is an issue for me about, and we're not very good at it in Northern Ireland, about lifelong learning and about growing your skills and taking every opportunity to be a lifelong learner and seize every opportunity that you get within your workplace and chivvy for more. And really good employers, I think, because we've very low unemployment, really good employers know now that this is not just a war for talent, it is also a war for retention of people. And actually, we may not always be able to give more money. God knows that's why lecturers are taking action sort of a strike all over the place in the FE sector. But the issue is we are committed to developing our people. So part of my bit is it's a rounded, it's an holistic package. Government policy may fail us and continues to fail us in terms of a a strategy which is economically meaningful for parents, but actually employers, private, public and voluntary, need to think about how do we support and invest in their skills.
Thank you, Louise. Do we have any questions from the audience on the floor? Because over a girl down there with a mic, and I'm not giving her anything to do. Does anyone have a question? Stick your hand up if you do. Oh, over here. Look at that. She actually started to run there. It was a wee trot. That's so impressive. Brilliant. Thank you so much. What's your question?
Hello. It just popped into my head when you mentioned neurodiversity and autism. What can we do you think, in our workplaces, especially when everything is changing so rapidly, to support neurodiversity?
Excellent question.
Anyone on the panel?
Well, I mean, I might start this one off. Like I did say, like I have a diagnosis of autism, and I'm a patron for an autism diagnostic clinic, and I used to be a speech language therapist, so I've been quite involved in working in autism and I do trainings and stuff for companies in communication and neurodiversity and things like that, and it's really important, and we've never really touched on it at the conference before, and I'm not sure why. Maybe that might be a topic for next year, I don't know, but it's really important. Because you might be doing training, say, they might be communication, they might be whatever, and not everybody learns the same, particularly if you have colleagues who are neurodiverse. And it's very difficult in terms of that argument of working from the office or working from home. Not everyone feels as comfortable in things. So personally, from my point of view, as somebody that affects, I think it's really important for companies to actually have official training on neurodiversity. And you know, the private clinic that I'm a patron for, we're putting on a conference in April to try and encourage people to, she's not planted or anything, this isn't an advertisement, it's just to try and encourage acceptance of neurodiversity in adults, and also to try and let people know that that's not, if you have someone in your team who comes to you and says, actually, I'm autistic, I have ADHD or whatever, your response is just, great, what accommodations do you need? Because actually the likelihood is that the skills that they have that have brought them to your team is part of the reason that because they're autistic, you know. And I know for me, I know that, you know, people say I'm funny, and I know it's because I've watched people my whole life because I didn't quite know how to socialise. And then, do you know what I mean? Like, you get skills from being autistic, or you might have ADHD, and then you might be able to hyper focus, which is great for some of the engineers and stuff. So I think everybody should have training on neurodiversity, and sometimes, well, I worked in speech therapy and I struggled because I was neurodiverse, because we were asked to communicate in very specific ways with patients, and I couldn't manage it, you know. So I think it's important for everybody to kind of have official training, and if you don't know enough about it, your company, I think it's just good to say, we don't know an awful lot about this, let's get some specialists in who can teach us, because I can guarantee you, they say 1% of people are autistic. It's way more than that. That's the people they know. And we're in a room full of women, and the women are always missed because we can be very social. Like, I'm a really social autistic person. So loads of women are missed. So, you know, in this room, there's probably about 10 other autistic people. So you're doing your company a favour if you have that training. I think it's really, really important. And anyone else in the...
I'll just, in respect of other panel members, I'll just keep my comment very, very short. Two things for me. One is that my son, who in fact is just graduated from Belfast Met with his level 5 in cloud computing. Would anybody hire him? Please. When my son got his diagnosis, it was very, very late in the day. It was just before he went off actually to university. And when we as a family were learning about it, I then began to go look at my husband and go, okay, now I realise, and of course there is a familial piece, exactly, and I learned about, anybody out there, read Asperger's in Love. It's a really good book to help you understand it. But I say to my son James, he has made me a better principal in an FE college, because I have learned as a mum the true nature of seeing the world differently, experiencing and processing it differently, and critically in terms of, and this is all about helping everyone flourish, whether you're in a learner in an organisation or whether you're a worker in an organisation, we want everyone to succeed. So there's an issue for me about learning, exactly as you said, Emer, about information, education is key, you break down the barriers, and it is a desire to see everyone flourish. And that surely is what we should be doing, harnessing the diversity of all of our talent. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Louise. That was a great answer. Any of the rest of our panel want to take that one, or will we go for another question?
Just very quickly, we were talking about diversity as a general theme.
Yep.
And then it did come up it was one of my colleagues about neurodiversity. But my point was, if we're going to do it properly, want to do it well. And I don't want to say we're just going to do it because we can say we have a strap line that we do it. And just, honestly, I don't think I know enough about it, but that's not an excuse not to do something. And I'll take you up on your offer and perhaps talk to you later, but
I'll see you there. I'll see you in Banbridge. I'll see you then.
anytime.
But no, but as you're saying, do it properly. And it's, some people are really mortified. They're like, well, I don't know enough about it. But that's fine. You can just say, oh, I don't know, therefore I'm going to learn about this. And then if you have somebody in their team, because a lot of people don't tell people that they're autistic. I usually don't, but somebody's got an autistic kid here. I was delighted about. So it's quite good to just say, I don't know enough about this, but I would really love to learn, and the people in your team will appreciate it. So we have still tons and tons of questions. Thank you for that question. Do we have any more? Anyone else in the audience want to ask? Got our hands up. Go on. We'll see her do a wee trot again. Anybody else? Let's see. No, I'll have to go. Okay, that's great. I'll have to go for these. Okay, so I've had a comment. Neurodiversity would be a great topic for next year. I agree with that. Let's see. Lots and lots of questions. The questions come in so quick that by the time I click on them, they're gone. Someone has asked, has anyone on the panel ever had a big failure or a big mistake in work? Anything that's happened that they've been able to kind of adapt to, show a bit of resilience and learn from? Everybody's like, yes, but I don't want to admit it to a room of like, anyone know of a mistake that they have made?
I'm not sure that I'm sure I've made plenty. I just can't think of a specific huge one right now. But I think as a general approach to that, like I would say the old "there's no such thing as failure" is a really good starting point, and creating a culture where people aren't afraid to fail is really important, because I'm a firm believer that it's all in the learning of how you come out of that situation is the important part of that. And the more that you can kind of sit and reflect on things that maybe haven't gone so well, or that you would have done differently at the time, the more that you're growing. And normally when you're going through a time like that in work where you're thinking you're out of your comfort zone, or you're out of your depth and you're feeling really uncomfortable, it's in that discomfort that we're all growing. So it's kind of embracing those times as well, to think like this feels difficult, but I believe that when I come out the other side of it, I will know more and I'll have a bigger capacity as a person. And again, like when we talk about resilience and how we stay grounded, for me anyway, I think that the more that I've learned to reassure myself that in times of difficulty or uncomfortableness, I've found the strategies and the resources to deal with it, that when another one of those situations comes up again, you tend to be like less stressed or able to deal with it a bit better without it impacting you so much emotionally or mentally, really. So it's kind of more general comment, I guess, about how we deal with those sorts of situations.
What about yourself, Louise?
Oh, I'm happy to fess up. I think if you've been in the workplace as long as I have, if you haven't messed up somewhere along the line, you're probably not worth very much, because you mightn't be taking enough risks. So many years ago, probably now about 20 years ago, I did a leadership course in the United States for 4 weeks. And as I said, I went over there and the Americans filled my head with wee sweetie mice. And I came back. I decided I would move on from the job that I was in at that time, which was a senior leadership role. And I got a new job, and I was the top trick in the organisation. I'll not mention any names, but anybody who goes on my LinkedIn, you'll figure out which one. And I was trying to lead a period of change in the organisation as its chief executive, and I got too far ahead of the posse. By that I mean I had a a bit of a wobbly board. I had an anxious management team, and I learned to think about myself. I was at that time known as a pace-setting leader, so which means that you got to watch yourself because you can be way too far out, and you're not got your troops with you, you're going to suffer. So there's life lesson number one. Anyway, I ended up having to take an early bath. I decided to, which was very difficult. I had 3 very young kids. I had a husband working part-time in a not very well-paid job, and that was tough enough. But instead of, as I said, I went off and I did a master's in leadership. It was change management and communication, so that I could understand, and I was my own case study to understand what had I not got right. I was, after all, the chief executive. I needed to learn what to do. And it was a lot cheaper than going to a shrink. And so I did my master's, got my master's, and the life lesson was profound. And I've taken that with me. The academic learning I did, because I'd gone back to the books finally, really stood to me. And the reality is, after I graduated, I landed the job that I really wanted after that. And you know, there is a bit about the only way is up. So I offer that to the room, not because, you know, I like to tell stories, which I do, Emer, as you've gathered, but because actually the thing is, your biggest learning doesn't always come from your successes, although it's very good to analyse your success. Your biggest learning can come from going, if you're honest with yourself, what bit did you not get right? And then if you're honest about it, what would you do differently? So I won't make those mistakes again on change leadership. I'll let, you know, others can do that. I'll just make new ones instead.
I think, you know, everybody makes mistakes. Obviously, everybody in any job makes mistakes. And I love that someone has written here, I love the idea that FAIL, F-A-I-L, is an acronym for First Attempt in Learning, which is really nice. So, someone has said amazing honesty from the panel, which is lovely. I've had loads of lovely comments. Let me see where. Oh yes, here's a good question. How can more people, and women in particular, be encouraged to take on more senior roles in a world where these roles often lack work-life balance? Anna, do you want to go for that?
Yeah, I don't know. From my personal experience, I've never really, my career was in global multinational manufacturing environments, unionised, male-dominated. And I don't know, I think for me it was a bit of luck. I was just in the right place at the right time often as well, in terms of maybe like as I've went on in life, I've learned not to make eye contact because you normally get another job, but that's very true. I don't know, I for me personally, I've never really seen it as a gender thing. I honestly mean that, and I've just sort of put my head down, delivered. I think if you want to do well in the company, and I remember way back in my career, I was talking to a senior manager and there was a promotion coming up and should I take it and all the rest. He says, Anna, my advice to you, he says, come in every day, do your job to the best of your own ability and deliver on it. And he said, success and promotion will naturally come. And that's exactly what happened to me. I then got offered opportunities and global roles and was very privileged to work across in America and across Europe. But that's not saying about how wonderful I am. My point is, it was just focusing and delivering on what I was doing at that given time, and then moved on to the next one. So I never personally have ever seen it as a gender thing. And maybe it's because I come up through male-dominated that I never really, you know, and I'm very similar to, I think it was Kira earlier spoke. I have 5 siblings. My father was a building contractor. I used to follow him around builders' yards and, you know, and it was just very natural to be in those environments. So I think it was just something from a young age that just didn't really, male, female, didn't really bother me. Just did the job I was paid to do and get on with it.
I think whenever you grow up and it's just natural to you and you don't see it in that way, you know. And yeah, who was it earlier says that their dad was a contractor or something? One of our speakers. Oh yes. And it is kind of natural to you, and then maybe you don't see it. So we're going to finish off with one question. We've got a lovely question from someone, and it's for the whole panel. What inspiring message would you like to share with the amazing younger woman in? Oh, sorry, we've got a comment before that I want to read out that's literally just popped up. got asked in an interview if I was too sensitive to work in a team of only men and that I was overdressed. Overdressed?
WTF?
How can you be overdressed for, what do you mean, a ball gown? How can you be turn up for like the Met Gala or something? How can you be overdressed for an interview? Anyway, I just wanted to put that comment in there because it saw me and it shocked me. So, last question for the panel. What inspiring message would you like to share with the amazing younger woman in the room? Louise, we'll start with you.
Don't second guess yourself.
Perfect. Like it, short and sweet. Very off-brand for you, Louise. Love it. That wasn't me. That was the autism. Has anybody seen James McAvoy in Split? And he's like, that was Patricia. That's what I said. Wasn't me. It was the autism. What about yourself, Carolyn?
Yeah, I think that's something that I would have said in the classroom many times. Don't let your grades define you. There's more than one way and one path to get to where you want to. And as long as you keep on persevering and keep having that motivation and that drive, you will get there.
Thank you. And Anna?
Yeah, what life's taught me, and definitely what I say to my children and to young people, never think anyone is going to be better than you. Or when I was growing up, I used to think people with these big jobs or in different countries, or God, they're so much smarter than me or they're better than me. That's nonsense. If you want to do something and you put your mind to it, you're just as good as anyone else.
Exactly. I always think, why somebody else? Like, why not me? Why not me?
And have a sense of humour is very important.
I would agree. Very good. Erin, just to finish this off.
Similar message really. I think probably for me it's more about believing that you have everything within you that you need to succeed. So you have the resources, you have the intellect, you know, it's just about leaning on that and believing it, so that you can go on and do whatever it is that you want to do.
Thank you. And we are going to end our final panel of the day there. Can we please get a big round of applause?